Okay, we'll start with this. What is our last look? Last look at the WBA Super Bantamweight title fight between Cruz, the champion, and Romero, the challenger. A fight I've talked about in previous videos.
Potential to be a Fight of the Year candidate because both Erica and Nazarena are pressure fighters. They're mid-range to inside, volume punchers, mean-spirited ones. One's a lot more experienced than the other.
But there is that can overcome experience based on the styles. Styles, as they say, they do make fights. Erica Cruz sports professional record. 17 wins with 2 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 19 professional bouts. To Romero sports professional record of 13 wins with no losses, 1 draw, 7 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 14 professional bouts. The younger of the two, the less experienced of the two, but the harder puncher.
The more explosive fighter, physically stronger to the eye, packing more single punching power in a single punch than Erica.
Having last seen action in June of last year. She fought 2 times last year, and it's been almost a year since Nazarena has fought.
Would have been ideal for her to squeeze in one more fight late last year, but
here we are. Erica Cruz, the champion Erica Cruz, she saw action more recently. She saw action back in November. And where Nazarena only fought 2 times last year, Erica fought 3 times last year.
There's that.
The more experienced fighter of the two, with the better resume, the better body of work, having fought the better fighters comparatively, Jelena Marjanovic, Amanda Serrano, Melissa Odessa, Melissa Esquivel,
Mayerlin Rivas, a common opponent between Erica and Nazarena.
She's fought better fighters. She has fought better fighters comparatively than Nazarena Romero across more weight classes. That makes her more experienced, more fights, more rounds in the bank. But you will notice
she's got home field advantage too.
Because the fight's taking place south of the border in Erica's native Mexico, Nazarena will be the away fighter, the Argentinian. But you will notice that Erica,
she doesn't change much.
She doesn't change much from one fight to the next, irrespective of who she's fighting. She's a pressure fighter through and through, carrying the same tendencies from one fight to the next.
Right?
She's awkward, she's aggressive, come forward, and she's a volume puncher with defensive deficiencies. Why does that matter?
Because Nazarena can exploit those deficiencies, even though she's less experienced.
Nazarena, like Erica, is a pressure fighter, but she's a lot more violent. She's a lot more of a violent puncher.
More single punching power.
Why does that matter? Well, Erica Cruz, if she's carrying the same defensive deficiencies from one fight into the next, irrespective of who she's fighting, that means she'll be subject to Nazarena's power. She won't work around it. She's gonna barrel forward like she always does, changing levels when she does it, shooting those big looping shots, open for counters, open for punches.
I mean, even with Amanda Serrano, she didn't change her approach.
In spite of Amanda's hefty knockout percentage, her reputation as one of the sport's biggest punchers, Erica went in there with Amanda and did the same thing she does with everybody.
Same thing she always does. Barrel forward and throw punches in bunches.
What does that tell you?
That she stays in character. If you didn't change anything about your approach for Amanda, you likely won't change anything for Nazarena.
Which means you're there for the punches. You're there to be hit, and Nazarena will be able to deliver her power. Maybe thinking to yourself, if Amanda Serrano didn't knock her out, how's Nazarena gonna knock her out?
Because the Serrano fight was at 126, whereas this is at 122.
I take a better punch up there than she does down here, and you'll notice that Nazarena, she doesn't get flustered in the exchange. She relishes the opportunity to turn it into a shootout. So when Erica Cruz comes forward, bobbing and weaving and looking to trade, putting together 3 and 4 punch combinations, Nazarena will oblige her.
With more single punching power than Erica's got, because while Erica's aggressive and she's a volume puncher,
she don't crack as hard as Nazarena. I don't think she does. I don't think for a second that the Jelena Marjanovic that she fought 2 times can go to distance with Nazarena.
No way.
You would have put that Jelena Marjanovic in the ring with Nazarena, Nazarena would have knocked her out early. That's what I think. And I think that even though Erica's more experienced than Nazarena, she's got too many holes, too many defensive deficiencies. She's gonna be there for the power.
Nazarena's got better balance too.
Nazarena is an orthodox fighter, whereas Erica, she's a southpaw. Though because they're both close quarters fighters, I don't know that the angle matters that much.
Who leads with what hand?
They're really not going to be playing at the angles very much. these two. They're going to step into their shots and let them go.
So who wins?
It would be easy for me to say that because Erica Cruz is the house fighter, she's the matchroom fighter, and the hometown fighter, she's the Mexican national fighting on Mexican soil, that she can win a points decision. It would be easy for me to say that, but that's assuming she doesn't get herself knocked out. And she might.
As stated, they both like to trade, but Nazarena has better balance with more power. She's more explosive.
So on the premise that Erica's got too many defensive deficiencies, she doesn't change much from one fight to the next. She stays in character, tries to force the issue, and throws punches in bunches. She's going to be subject to Nazarena's power. I think Nazarena's going to stop her. I think Nazarena's going to knock her out.
I think that underneath it all, even though Erica's game, she knew how dangerous this fight was, and that's why she was pushing for that unification match, but Jamie Mercado wouldn't oblige her. She knew there's a chance she loses to Nazarena.
I think she's going to. We already saw Gabriela Alaniz upset Marlon Esparza on U.S. soil. I think Nazarena Romero is about to upset Erica in Mexico.
I've got Nazarena Romero by way of knockout.
This Saturday on DAZN. In men's super bantamweight news, veteran trainer Virgil Hunter says Naoya Inoue should climb in weight to fight Gervonta Davis.
Wasn't he the one belly aching after Amir Khan climbed in weight to fight Canelo?
Got himself knocked out? Yeah, he was. Now Virgil's saying, I don't think Gervonta Davis should go below 135. I'm sure he knew he walks around at 140, 45, 145. He knew he would have to come up just like everybody else. Where is the value of Davis coming to a catchweight to fight you? You're big in Japan, and I'm big in the States, so there should not be any weight concessions. If you want to fight, come and fight me.
Well, Naoya Inoue said some months ago that he has no immediate plans of moving up in weight, so what is Virgil talking about?
What the Americans are doing is keeping this fight alive by consistently talking about it, even though Inoue made it clear he's not moving up in weight anytime soon.
Said that already.
Want a guy who started out at flyweight, what's that, 108 pounds?
Yeah.
Want a guy who started out at 108 pounds, who's currently in his fourth division, his fourth weight class at 122, to climb up 3 more weight classes for Gervonta at 135.
You don't think that's asking a bit much?
The Americans never do when it comes to foreign fighters. The Americans never do because they're entitled. They think they're in a position to make the entire world bend the knee and bow to them.
This ain't the 80s.
Let's not make any excuses, Hunter said. Ragondial fought Lomachenko. There was no catchweight involved. He dared to take the opportunity. Ragondial came up short, but he dared to take it. Charlo dared to fight Canelo at 168, coming from 154, so it's only a few pounds north. You're getting a little older. I'm sure you could carry the weight comfortably, so I wouldn't make any concessions for that fight.
I bet.
Because it's always supposed to work out to where you get what you want. I remember when Andre Ward fought Chad Dawson. He didn't move up in weight to fight Chad Dawson.
Chad Dawson moved down to fight him.
Why didn't you have that mentality with Andre? Why didn't you have that mentality with Andre Ward? You want to do the fight? Go up there, do the fight. Jump up and take the challenge. Dare to be great. Or does that not apply to you? I know what you're going to say. You're going to bring up the Kovalev fight, that he did move up in weight to fight Sergey Kovalev, but that's because he couldn't make 168 anymore. He lost something like 2 or 3 years due to promotional issues. What's the point?
Stop beating around the bush.
It makes the Americans skin crawl that a foreigner like Naoya Inoue is making waves so big domestically that they're reaching American shores. They don't like the idea that he's not subject to them and what they want. They don't like the idea that he doesn't have to bow, he doesn't have to bend the knee to Americans.
To be considered one of the best fighters in the world, the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, depending on who you ask.
It's always the same thing. When the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world isn't an American, they lose their fucking minds. When it was Chocolatito, when it was Golovkin.
Chocolatito was a 4-division champion, unbeaten at the time, and these guys couldn't stop complaining that he was the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter.
No, they were saying it should go to Andre Ward, who was sidelined with promotional issues at the time, and he wasn't even as accomplished a fighter. Andre, at the very best, was a champion at 2 weights. Chocolatito was a champion in 4.
That guy had to go up 4 divisions before he suffered a loss.
Depending on who you ask, Andre suffered his after just 2 divisions.
Depending on who you ask, he lost the Sergey Kovalev fight, the first one.
What's your point?
My point is, Andre never subjected himself to what Chocolatito subjected himself to.
Hell, don't even go up in weight again. Just sit right there as Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol are coming through. Sit right there, defend your belts, see if you can successfully defend your belts.
Back to the point.
Americans think they're special just because. Just because they're Americans. They don't think they have to subject themselves to what foreign fighters have to subject themselves to. Naoya Inoue is a champion at 4 weights who's beaten 7, arguably 8 champions and taken their belts, defended the undisputed crown, and he's active, and he keeps active. He's already negotiating his very next fight. What more do you want from the man?
Jump up 3 weight classes to fight Gervonta.
That's not unreasonable at all. But if I said that Gervonta should jump up 3 weight classes to 154 to fight Terence Crawford because that's a bigger fight than any fight at 135, than any fight at 140 or 147, that's a bigger name.
Didn't Gervonta once say he'd knock out Terence Crawford? Show him proof. Go up there and do it.
For telling me that he knew he needs to move up 3 or 4 weight classes for Gervonta, tell Gervonta to move up 3 or 4 weight classes for Crawford. Or is it that you don't think you're subject to the same standards because your standards are double standards?
Isn't that always the case?
This ain't the 80s.
No.
This ain't the 90s.
No.
Boxing is not the American echo chamber that it used to be. It's open to the world. Emerging markets are popping up all over the place, and Japan is one of them, to where this kid doesn't have to come here and bend the knee and bow to you and your unreasonable requests.
Fuck off.
He knew he already addressed this. He's not moving up in weight anytime soon. He barely arrived at super bantamweight.
It was less than a year ago.
Where Gervonta Davis has been sitting pretty at lightweight for 4 or 5 years. 4 going on 5 years. He's been there since 2019. When is he moving up?
Right.
When is he going to kick off his super lightweight campaign?
Right.
Oh, he's not subject to that standard, right?
But he knew he is.
Because you can't think of an American anywhere at or around those weights that can beat him. And underneath it all, that's what you want. Your requests are not made in good faith. Nothing about you is in good faith.
It's all agenda driven. It's all ulterior motives. You want him to move up in weight to fight Gervonta because that's the nearest American that you think can beat him.
The problem is, that's about 3 or 4 divisions north of where he campaigns.
You wouldn't ask Gervonta to do that, but you're going to ask Inoue to do that.
Why are we supposed to look at him as less than?
Because he's not American?
Because he doesn't have enough in common with you? He doesn't live close enough to your house? He doesn't look or talk or sound like you? Is that why?
Kick rocks.
Take off your shoes, take off your socks, find a rock, and kick it.
You self-entitled prick.
Now, as it pertains to that same subject, the good people at Ring Magazine have so decided to rank Naoya Inoue the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport, ahead of Terence Crawford, ahead of Alexander Usyk, and Canelo Alvarez.
I don't think the Americans are going to be too happy about that.
Pound-for-pound lists, in and of themselves, are subjective, subject to whatever the governing criterion is.
Yeah.
In this instance, the governing criterion is an editorial panel that places votes, and based on those votes, that's how you earn a rank.
Right.
Pound-for-pound lists are different, based on different criterions, if there's any criteria at all. The Ring IQ pound-for-pound list does differ from Ring Magazine's because it's not an editorial panel that decides where fighters go.
Instead, there are certain units of measure, quantifiable units of measure, that dictate what fighters go where, modeled after the career of the late, great Sugar Ray Robinson, and what it is that made him a pound-for-pound fighter in tandem with what has made other pound-for-pound fighters ranked as such. That he was a champion, that he defended his titles successfully several times across the welterweight division, the middleweight division,
Who he fought, and how he fought them, the skills that he displayed.
That's what my list is based on.
It's based on him and other fighters like him that were ranked as such. Whereas Ring Magazine's pound-for-pound list, it is different, but we all arrived at the same conclusion. Why is that?
Well, maybe it's because Inoue is a 4-division champion as opposed to Terence Crawford, who's a 3-division champion. Maybe it's because Inoue has pried away more belts from more reigning champions than Crawford has, because he keeps a more active schedule than Crawford does. This is the current argument.
What my list is based on. It's how I arrived at that conclusion. I can only gather that perhaps the people at Ring Magazine thought the same thing. That in the time that it's taking Terence Crawford to return to the ring, Inoue's already fought 2 times.
That last year, Inoue had a fight the same week as Terence Crawford's last fight, but he didn't stop there. He's already seen action
2 more times since then. So then why are people giving you such a hard time about rating him at number 1 if now Ring Magazine rates him at number 1?
Tribalism.
It's mostly tribalism. Americans rooting for the American and propping up the American. It's what it is.
Mostly.
They try to hide it and disguise it with asinine arguments like, well, Inoue got knocked down by Neary, whereas Terrence Crawford has never been knocked down. Not officially. A cockamamie argument that doesn't make any fucking sense, because do you realize that Sugar Ray Robinson, the father of the pound for pound, was knocked down an estimated 9 times?
You gonna tell me he's not a pound-for-pound fighter?
By your logic, he wouldn't be, because Rocky Graziano knocked him down early in their fight.
And you know what Sugar Ray Robinson did?
What?
He got up, and he knocked Rocky Graziano out. Kinda like how he knew he got up and knocked Luis Neary out. You're telling me because he knew he got knocked down, he can't be number 1 pound for pound. Sugar Ray Robinson has been knocked down. Sugar Ray Leonard has been knocked down.
By Dickie Eklund. By Macho Camacho, if my memory serves me. Are you telling me he's not pound for pound? Or he wasn't, because he got knocked down?
Give it a rest.
You're just trying to disguise your tribalism. You're trying to disguise it because you know that underneath it all, if that's what your argument is based on, you're gonna get dismissed. Nobody's gonna listen to you. You try to make it sound like it's about boxing when we all know that it's not.
Fuck off.
No, I don't imagine everybody's happy that Ring Magazine, often dubbed the Bible of Boxing, has so decided to rank Inoue at number 1 the same way that I've decided to rank him at number 1. Now that's based on my governing criteria. Whatever theirs is, you'll have to ask them.
What's yours?
I know. You don't actually have a governing criteria. What you're gonna say is, well, I imagine that if Inoue were the same size as Crawford, Crawford would beat him. But what stops somebody from saying the same thing in reverse?
I imagine if he knew he was the same size as Crawford, he'd beat Crawford.
Do you see what I mean? And it's not a knock on Terrence Crawford, by the way, because I'm a fan of both of them, and I've been a fan of the both of them for years. But right now, I've got Inoue at number 1. That could change. Crawford hasn't retired.
He's about to fight another world champion in Israel Madrimov. If he beats him, he strengthens his argument.
And if he fights another one after that, he'll move past Inoue.
And you can quit your crying.
Because whenever the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the sport isn't an American fighter, you tend to see this. These guys start losing their fucking mind, going out of their way to discredit the guy.
Saying he hasn't fought anybody.
That ain't true. You just don't watch those divisions, so you don't know who the fuck he's fighting, which means you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
So stop talking.
You wouldn't know the good super bantamweights from the bad ones, so what the fuck makes you think you can weigh in on this?
Shut up!